To use this cutter, I adapted this arbor a little bit. I made two little keys that of course fit in these slots here. And as you can see, it works very well. But I use the same arbor also for my slitting saws. And as you can see, this also fits very well. Now, normally I use one spacer. This is 10 millimeter. Put on my slitting thing, and then another spacer 10 millimeter. So my saw is squeezed between two, and then with my special washer here, this side of course, and my bolt, and fix it all together, and it works very well. But of course, to do so, I need to take out these two little keys, which is no problem because they are held in with a tiny little screw. And no, the making of these keys is not on video. The reason why I show you this is not for this one, but for this one. So let's put this one aside for the moment. I made cute little keys that goes in this slot here, and then of course in this cutter, and this goes together very well, very well. But when I made the keys for this one, I forgot one little detail, because I would like to use this one too on the same arbor because it's the same diameter, but I didn't took in account a little detail, and that is of course that in this one there's not a keyway. So to make this cutter work, the only way to hold it in place is of course to make keys like this one, but in this arbor. The problem is of course that this is very hard steel. I gave it a touch of file and not possible. So if I want to drill holes in here to hold my keys I'm gonna make, that's not gonna work. Now, of course, I have a little idea, maybe. To make this thing fit on this shaft, as you can see, the shaft is too long. So all I have to do is use the same type of spacer that I use for the other one, and put my cutter on here, and now with my special magic washer, it works. My idea now is to make a spacer same thickness like this one, which is 10 millimeter. But if I leave the key shape on this side and the key shape on the other side, I have spacer ring keys all in one, and I don't need to drill holes to put little screws in. That could work. And to make this thing, I will use a leftover of another project. I think it's leftover. Whatever. Now, let's hope everything goes to plan. This hole needs to be 16 millimeter, just of course like this little ring I use, and I have a 16 millimeter drill bit, and this seems to fit perfectly fine, maybe a little bit loose. But I'm not gonna drill with this drill bit because the point is hand ground, handmade, and it is not perfect, which means I'm gonna drill with this one, and the drill bit will look a bit for the easiest way to make the hole, and it will be oversized. And that is exactly what I don't want to happen. So I drilled with 13, that's all I have. And I would like to use my cute little boring bar here. But the width between the 2 points here is 16 millimeter. So that's not gonna work. So let's go back to the high-speed steel thing. This one will work perfectly fine. That's a press fit. Not good yet. Yes. Now that I know that I didn't mess up this bore here, which is good, let's turn down this outer diameter. For the moment it is 45 and I need to bring it to more or less 32. This outer dimension is of course not critical. And this is where I decided to leave the thing bigger than intended. I said 32, but I'm gonna leave it as big as possible to enter the keys in here. This diameter here is 32. But of course my cutter, if I put it on here, is a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna make the keys that they don't touch the rim here, but just a little bit below. And this should be it. And it is. That's good. As you can see, I already cut a piece off. And now it's time to make this little key shape that of course has to fit in here. And they have a width of 8 millimeter. One side square, height 5, and the other side, this side of course, with one radius side and a height of 10 over to the milling machine. Before I turned the camera back on, I did a little bit test cut just to make sure my dimensions are right and not to make a complete fool of myself. Half a fool is more than enough. Now, what's gonna happen, of course, is I'm gonna cut here in my little V-block. But that's not really a problem. This is a piece of homemade tool and it's very easy to make a new one the day I need a new one. So now let's cut and I have been very generous with leftover material. I mean, this piece is way too long. So let's go for it. I have to cut and leave here 20.5 millimeter. Start. And of course, I cut a little bit too much. The height I had to leave here 20.5. And I cut it off and I left 20. So I undercut 0.5 millimeter. Now it's not really important. The thing will work. Probably. Both sides finished. Of course I still have to cut the height of the thing, but let's test fit. It's a bit loose, but I think it will work. And the other one. Oh, what's happening here? Inside here is marked 8, and when I measure it is 9. And inside here is marked nothing at all, and when I measure it is 8 point something. So these two are different. This one will work. This one, I will have to make it work. Right, first of all, let's cut this thing at height. I have to take off at least 3 millimeter here. And here is the half finished product. This one has a tiny bit of wiggle waggle. And this one has a tiny bit more of wiggle waggle, but still I think it's gonna work. Right, enough blah blah. Let's cut the other side. It's just that there is a tiny little problem here. Some time ago I shaped the jaws here to make this rim. This is very handy because several times there's no need of parallels. This is parallel, of course. But if I put my part in here, there is not enough depth. Here is a gap on this side. If I put my part in the middle here, it's gonna hold on 1 millimeter. That's not enough. And if I put my part like this and I close the vise, it's not held. So first what I'm gonna do is cut off this rim and make this thing look a little bit like a normal vise. And the day I need these shoulders here, I will make new. This will work much better. That could work. And of course, it doesn't fit yet. Because if we look at this part from this side, we have of course the cylindrical part and the two notches that were milled out while the thing was made, of course. And because the milling cutter is flat, or more or less flat on the surface, we have here a flat and here a flat. Result is of course that this distance is bigger than the diameter of the shaft here. The shaft is 16 and between the two flats it is 17, which means back to the milling machine. To line out my part here, I installed a 16 millimeter cutter, because the hole is also 16 millimeter. And then I lowered the cutter into the hole and now it's in center. Right, I think I'm gonna use it also to cut 1 millimeter that way and 1 millimeter this way, see if it works. To be fair, of course, it didn't fit from the first go, because get out of here. It's stuck in this radius, but I will get it out. The little problem I had is that the key shape itself was not really centered. There was a difference of more or less 0.2 of a millimeter between this side and this side. So I brought it back again to the milling machine, took off my 0.2 of a millimeter, and now it fits. The only thing left to do is to find a way to make this radius in here. I think I found a solution. Of course I could do it with a hand file, but no. Shaper. I made a little radius tool. It's just that the thing is held here in the vise on these two little tabs, so we'll see if it works. I think my little form tool worked very well. It's not completely circular or perfectly round, but whatever, I think this will work. But just to be sure, let's give it a go on the milling machine. A depth of cut of 1000 microns that way and about 5000 down, so I have a width here of 5 millimeter and a depth of 1. Turn on the oil. Go! It's just that I forgot to dial in this 1 millimeter that way. That's stupid. After a little bit of cutting, I took the part out so it's easier to show you what it looks like. And when I check the surface finish, it looks a bit as if it was done by someone who knows what he's doing. So this thing works great.